Hello, podcast listeners. If you love the good old red, white, and blue, you're going to love this episode of JJ Meets World. Trust me, that's going to make sense. It's not false patriotism. You just got to listen to the episode. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is! He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprain. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Tucker, I have been I've been on this journey, okay? And this journey has involved me. You can use a Tucker just had a peanut butter cup, and I don't want him to have to wipe his hands on his pants, so I'm offering him the most generic box of Kleenex you've ever seen, but it is still Kleenex brand.
Comfort Touch.
Yeah, that's
professional Comfort Touch.
Right? Mm-hmm, professional. So I've been continuing to lose weight and work on myself. That's a pounder Pepsi that he's opening. And part of that journey has included, eating better, like not eating as much, working out and just trying to be a little more active. I am wearing a size large t-shirt today.
What?
This is a large.
That's a large?
This is a large. And while it does hug me, it is not so close. Like, I do feel like I've got a little bit of, breathability in it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I was set up with a large size shirt rather than an extra large. Now, it is still a tall, so it's got an extra, 2 inches of
I was going to
length.
say, that looks like an XL to me, but I'm a short guy.
Yeah.
And so an XL to me is different. I don't go to the big and tall, and there's no small and short.
They just call it regular.
They just call it Target.
They just call it, they call that the graphic tees section.
Yep.
So
They call it, you better learn how to sew.
there you go. I was very excited because my extra large tall shirts, and I only wear tall stuff. I only can because I've got a long torso. I'm a tall guy, and so I need that extra length on the bottom part of the shirt. Otherwise, my butt crack would be out way more than it already is, which is probably my second most notable feature. So I went to the Husky section of JCPenney.
On the back of your driver's license, it should be a picture of your butt.
My butt,
Everyone.
on the back of it.
I think we need to propose that not only we need to just to make sure, because how is AI supposed to know what your butt looks like? But your face is out there everywhere. So I think what it is when they're figuring out who you are, they want to be able to compare your face. Like, all right, now show us your butt.
All right, now bend over.
And it's on the other side, just like a butt would be.
Where it's like corrective lenses and then a picture of your butt.
And it can be hidden in your wallet, butt down, because the face is still looking out through the little window.
Now, what does that mean when you get your cousin's ID to get into...
Well, I think
a bar early.
I think
are you showing the bar your butt all the time?
I think there has to be restrictions on it being federal law enforcement or something like that.
Federal law enforcement,
probably.
So not even like the stadies or the locals.
Listen, no one's going to call you up and ask to see your butt except the government, and they'll do it in person, and they'll show you their butts too, right? Like, imagine every movie where like an FBI goes, "Hey, I'm FBI Agent Tanner." I think they need to take a second and then turn it around and just be like, "This is my butt."
So the badge also has their butt on
Yes.
it.
Yeah, but it's just it's not a picture of their butt. It's a metal carving of a butt.
The butt.
That's the butt of the badge itself. Like the badge itself, like the one you see, that's the face, but the badge also has a butt, and only federal agents' badges would have butts.
I was hanging out with a 4-year-old last night, and I kept saying the word butt, and she loved it. She had a great time with it.
Yeah, it's a great word.
She was like, I really lately have been getting a kick out of kids and like how funny kids are. No wonder that show, The Kids Say the Darndest Thing, ran for so long. I'm also very happy to return the child to their parent at one point and be like, congratulations, I got them all feral for you. And now you can put them to bed and you can do the actual child rearing.
Best part about being an uncle.
is getting them all riled up.
Yeah, is the lack of responsibility you have. You have some responsibility, but not a ton.
This is some real inside baseball for JJ Gordon, but I have the flatware and the like plates and cups and everything that my mom had in the house, and she was a big believer in Fiesta ware. Fiesta ware meaning it's a stoneware that are come in bright colors, and my mom, it's not like my mom got like all purple, like they're all different colors. So this little girl came over for dinner with her dad, and I set everything up, and we're just starting the meal, and she's like, whoa. That plate is purple, that one is yellow, and that one is pink, and mine's green. I hate green.
She hates green?
She hates green.
I hate that kid.
Yeah, she wanted the purple one really bad, which is my plate. But I had already put my steak and like my carefully chosen potatoes on it, and I was like, "Well, tough, you know. You're gonna learn an important life lesson right now." And it just was what it was. It was what it was.
Yeah.
I'm doing some cosplaying today. I am headed to the movie theater to see a screening of Spaceballs, and I will be wearing my Barf costume there.
And for people who have not seen Spaceballs, Barf is the name of a character.
It's the equivalent to Chewbacca in Spaceballs, which is a parody of the Star Wars films, played by John Candy. And so, very excited. I think my Barf costume, he's a Mog, half man, half dog. He's his own best friend. I think my Barf costume might be my best John Candy costume.
I agree with you. And I would say your second one is Uncle Buck.
Yeah, Uncle Buck is really good.
That's one and two.
You know, I've got the pictures from when I dressed up as Uncle Buck at your Halloween party at your house. Everyone's like, what's wrong? Why are you so sweaty in these photos? And I said, because I believe this is one of those rare Halloweens where it was like 70 degrees out. And I'm wearing a coat, a hat, like, you know, a scarf. Like, I was hot.
You are really good at John Candy cosplay. There's something about the spirit of JJ that is sort of tangential to the spirit of John Candy.
Yeah,
and
thank
so
you.
like you fill the costume out nicely. And if someone knows who you are, they're like, oh, this makes a ton of sense, actually. I'm kind of surprised you don't dress like this more often.
I'm having a piece of art framed right now. So this artist made it's a like a parody of the Candyland board, but it's called John Candyland. And so you move through all of his movies, but it's done in that Candyland style. And so he made 100 prints of it, and I have print number 8 of 100. And I'm very excited. I'm getting it framed professionally right now. That is a step into adulthood that no one tells you about, is that you will get stuff framed. Like, that becomes a thing where you are no longer just putting like a movie poster in a frame. Like, you're actually like framing something that you want to keep in some way, shape, or form.
Or not, you're just not using like the sticky gum to like put your Hot Rod poster against the wall.
Bingo, right? Killed a mouse last week. I was in my office and I had a bunch of cables on the floor because I'm trying to do some cable management. And I saw a little tiny mouse, and he got up on the top of the cables, and then he went back into the cables, and I was like, you son of a bitch, get out of my office. And so I put 6 sticky traps down, I put some poison, and then I put a snap trap that closes itself. So, you know, it was the kind of what else did I say? Like the kind of overkill you would see in a Looney Tunes cartoon. And
I was hoping that the day would have played out where the mouse kept foiling your attempts
over and over,
and every time you would somehow walk into your own trap, like Wile E. Coyote.
I mean, I love the movie Mouse Hunt. Like, that movie, if you are sleeping on Mouse Hunt, you shouldn't be. Gore Verbinski directed it. It's fantastic. So the poison that I choose specifically, so I have these poison traps, and Tomcat is the company that makes them, and it is about the size of a cell phone. And there's a clear plastic top on it, and then there's a chamber that has the bait trap in it, and then there's like a little entryway, like a little entry hallway. And so if you had like a dog couldn't get at the poison, right? Like, you have to be mouse sized to get in there. So your other pets are safe unless you have a pet mouse, in which case, why'd you put that trap near where your pet mouse could be? So, I was moving a Santa bear that I had used in A Very Die Hard Christmas, and beneath the Santa bear was the dead mouse. Little tiny, bitty, dead mouse. So he had chosen the poison, but the poison that I choose specifically to use, I did a bunch of research going into it because not all rodent poisons are the same. Did you know that?
I didn't know it to be a fact, but I'm not surprised to learn that.
Yeah. So the one that I used is one that a bunch of veterinarians recommend. They said if you're going to use poison, which we don't like you doing because inevitably a dog is going to eat this. So number one, it's got a coagulant in it that you can use an anticoagulant. So if your dog were to eat this,
Okay.
they would be very sick, but it wouldn't mean automatic death. And so the way this one works is the mouse eats it, and then it makes the mouse feel sick. And so when a mouse feels sick, it goes back to where its like home is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes back to its nest. And when the poison works on the mouse, when it kills it, it also has like, what I assume is kind of like a Pepto-Bismol effect, and it dries everything out so that there's no like stink
Okay.
associated with it. So like by the time I saw this guy, he was pretty much just like a husk,
Oof. Okay.
right? So I threw him into the garbage. I took him, he was in a basket, and I carried the basket up, put the basket, threw the basket in the garbage, and I was like, "You're not going to Gene Hackman's wife me." Like, that's not going to happen. Because have we talked about that on this podcast?
We did. Yeah,
right?
we
Right?
did. We did.
And you should be afraid of the hantavirus. You
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
It killed that woman. It killed her, and then poor Gene Hackman wandered around that house for a week. So I
Why
took
not
care
just
of
get
this
a
mouse.
cat? Just keep a cat in your office.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because at one point I had 2 cats who decided, no, we don't give a shit. We're not going to be mousers anymore. And so then I still had to put poison out, and then I also had to take care of a dying cat and a cat that couldn't give 2 shits. And it drives me nuts. It drives me so crazy about how cats trick you and are so indifferent.
My kitties aren't indifferent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love me.
Do they ever bring you presents? They ever get to go outside?
They don't go outside, and I've had zero. At no point has either of them brought me a mouse, or have I found a mouse in my place. But that's because I'm slab on grade. Like, there's really a mouse could get in there, sure, but any mice that are on my property are going to be in the backyard or in the garage. Like, that's where all the fun stuff is. I never see them.
I have a very inviting crawl space underneath my house that I think mice would probably love. But I have now put enough poison in there that if I were trapped in that room, like if there's a cave in, I could just end it.
There are a lot of neighborhood cats in my area
Oh yeah?
they're not feral. They have owners, but they're allowed to just roam the neighborhood. And I would assume too that they're probably helping keep the mice population down. They're just not keeping the rabbit population down. The rabbit population is sort of the big one, which I'm cool with.
I made an observation today watching, because our backyard is full of rabbits, right? So I'm looking at this rabbit, and I thought to myself, most artistic depictions of rabbits show them with these giant floppy ears. But all the rabbits in my backyard have little tiny ears.
Yeah. It's
They're
just
the same shape, but they're little tiny ears.
It's the kind of rabbit. It's so like, lop ear rabbits is like a kind of rabbit. And yeah, that's mostly in pet shops. You can find those.
Why do you think
But,
that
yeah.
became the de facto, like when you're drawing a rabbit, like even think of like the Bugs Bunnies of the world. I have giant ears.
Jackrabbits have giant ears.
Okay.
Huge ones, but they don't really flop. They're not like loose, but they stand up really, really straight. So there are breeds of rabbits with large ears.
What do they call what was the rabbit that they did in America's Funniest Home Videos? Remember how they constantly had those shorts with like, they're like, hey guys, it's me.
Wasn't he? No, he was a rabbit with like antlers, right?
Yeah, what's that called? Jackalope.
Jackalope. Yeah. I haven't thought about that in a long time. I wonder
Memory unlocked.
I wonder if that would even stand up today or not.
Because
That was Dave Coulier.
who did the voice? Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it would hold up today, because even as a kid, I remember being like, geez, did one guy take like a camera out there and film all these on his own?
I'm trying to remember what an era that was when we had Full House, America's Funniest Home Videos, and then what was that one called that followed it that Dave Coulier was in? It was a totally separate show.
Like, What was that called? Okay,
I'm blanking on it. But we had
we'll think of it.
TV saturated with Bob Saget and Dave Coulier.
And people's home videos. Like, that's the thing I love the most. Hold on.
It might have just been Funniest People.
Yeah.
America's Funniest People. But I don't remember. Do you think that they said, well, we should have Dave Coulier in this because Bob Saget is in America's Funniest Home Videos?
I think that was just like the natural progression. Okay,
That's the precursor to YouTube.
100%. In fact, someone who, like the guy who formed YouTube was watching this and be like, ugh, why do I have to wait until Sunday at 6 o'clock to watch my favorite thing, which is Dad Fails? Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, it's not this. Not this.
You can pick up the tab even when you forget your wallet.
Yeah, I don't remember this.
This ad's going on too long.
$45 to sell.
Hold on. As soon as I can skip.
WellsFargo.com/getfargo.
Stories from friends next door, they never told. You might be a star tonight, so let that camera roll. You're the red, white, and blue. All the funny things you do. America, America, this is you. You're the red, white, and blue. All the funny things you do.
Oh, yeah, there's the applause.
And if I remember correctly, the audience voted on the best video, right?
They did. They had like a little thing in front of them that was connected to a cord and you could vote on it. And like the family would be there.
Yeah.
That was always a big thing. America's Funniest Home Videos, I don't think it's still running, but it was running for sure up until just before the pandemic. And I know that
Really?
because I have a friend who submitted a video and was on it. I want to say as recently as 2019.
No shit.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So
is
Annie had like her daughter, and like because there's a world where so many more people are videotaping things now, right?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
her
that's
daughter
true.
was like taping herself doing ballet, and she hit the wall, and the shelf fell, and then it's something else, and you hear Annie, I think from the other room, going like, "Lily, what's going on?" And she goes, "Nothing."
I distinctly remember probably 1993 being so in love with America's Funniest Home Videos that I
Yeah.
wanted to be on it.
Oh, everyone wanted to be on
And
it.
so I convinced Dad and Brianna to try, like, let's stage one. And so we
Oh.
actually filmed like a staged one. But obviously Dad never sent it in. He just did
Do you
it.
remember what you were doing in it?
Yeah, what it was it was Brianna and I, or it was at least one of us, but hiding, quote unquote, hiding in the dryer. And then we didn't even consider the fact that Dad wouldn't be walking in with a bunch of dry clothes to put in the dryer.
Yeah.
But he comes in with some dry clothes and opens the dryer, and we go, boo! And he goes, ah! And he throws the clothes up in the air.
Oh, I kinda love
wonder that VHS might still exist in our family collection
All
somewhere.
right, okay, let me.
I should take it and submit it to America's Funniest Home Videos. My fucking one that I was lying
That
about.
you were, yeah, like,
that I was trying to pawn off on the American public.
in all honesty, there's something kind of funny about that concept, too,
Yeah.
being like having to come to grips. Okay, so let me blow your mind with something. This is from the America's Funniest Home Videos Wikipedia page. First of all, this is based off of a Japanese television show called Fun TV with Kato-chan and Ken-chan. And I'm going to give you just a little thing. So if you didn't know this, here's some facts for you for your next trivia night. Originally airing as a special in 1989, it debuted as a regular weekly series in 1990. The show was originally hosted by comedian Bob Saget for the 1989 special and the first 8 seasons of the incarnation. After Saget stepped down as a host in 1997, John Fugelsang, who I do not know, and Daisy Fuentes, who I do know, took over as co-hosts for its 9th and 10th seasons. After 2 years of being shown as occasional specials hosted by various actors and comedians such as D.L. Hughley, Richard Kind, Stuart Scott, Steve Carell, with Mike Kasem and Carrie Kasem hosting the international versions, ABC brought the series back on Friday nights in 2001 with Tom Bergeron taking over hosting duties. Bergeron is the longest-running host in the show's history to date, staying on America's Funniest Videos for 15 seasons until he stepped down in 2015. Alfonso Ribeiro from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air
Oh, okay.
has hosted the program since 2015, which means it is still on the air.
Wow.
On May 16th, 2023, ABC renewed America's Funniest Home Videos for a 34th season, premiered of the same year. On May 13th, 2024, ABC renewed America's Funniest Home Videos for a 35th season, which premiered on September 29th of the same year. So really, we are talking about this show. When was its original first air date?
Would have been like 91, 92.
I mean, they're not saying, they say November 26th, 1989 for the first, that must be the special.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that's right. That's
so
right.
we are literally embarking on the 35th anniversary of America's Funniest Home Videos, which seems to sustain itself in a YouTube world. Mm-hmm. Who's watching that show? I mean, my God.
Well, you'd have to think too, though. It's really cheap to produce. Like, you pay the host and get some people in a room, and then you're basically just being fed the content for free from people outside of you. So I think part of it is that it's a probably really cost-effective way to make a show, and you get enough ratings, you stay on.
I mean, what?
It's also, I'm sure, it's a great filler programming too, right?
Right.
So I'm sure the replay value on it is great, and a funny home video from 5 years ago is probably still going to be funny if the person hasn't seen it yet.
I just think in a world of YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, I guess this would be my thing. So when you produce one of these episodes, it's not immediate, right? Like there's a time between you produce it and it goes on air. How can you keep that person from not uploading their video to YouTube?
Oh,
in advance?
sure. That's
Right?
true. That's true. Well, again,
And is there an America's Funniest Home Video filter that I can put on to make it grainy and VHS-like?
Another piece of it is that it's a time capsule, though, too, right?
It truly
You're
is.
getting people's home videos from, specific years. They never showed anything that I don't think had, was on Super 8 or anything like that before people had VHS cameras, right? So the show couldn't even exist until that happened.
Right? I mean, there might have been a world where someone had something transferred from Super 8 to
Well,
VHS.
and how many people were sending in the original and only copy of the tape?
Right.
Right? So that tape is just now in, more than likely, some archival tank, or it's just getting thrown
Okay.
out. People's memories are just being thrown away because we got the usable part from it.
At the height, I guarantee you, at the height of popularity, so let's say 1996 is the height of popularity for America's Funniest Home Videos, where you cannot miss this show. There were some poor souls who were reviewing thousands of hours of footage every single week. And I'm sure you said, listen, you need to go to between hour mark this and this. But, you're still scrubbing through all that footage
Yep.
and watching it. And you're like, this isn't funny. You have to find out when little shits like you were trying to stage it. And so I'm sure they had someone there this is staged. There's no way this is real.
Sure. Absolutely. Of course they had to. I'm sure stuff made it to air that was staged.
Yeah.
But I feel like, too, I have to go back into the memory banks now, but weren't there, recurring characters, too, that would show up from people's home videos? I feel like there were maybe a couple, people who kind of caught on with the audience and they had more stuff, but maybe I'm misremembering
Maybe
that.
they came back for a second time.
Yeah, oh, it's this lady again.
I think
they would often curate things in blocks,
Which
right?
literally becomes what YouTube is, right?
So grandma's falling downstairs, right? We want to see it's just, do you have video of your grandma falling down? We're going to put all of those together, put some behind it. And then we'll cut to Bob Saget. He'll say something completely devoid of something we've scripted that is so anodyne that there's no one's going to be upset
Right.
with you.
And what's great is he's narrating so many of these hope dad doesn't accidentally run over the dog. And so they're the videos don't speak for themselves. You also had you had some poor asshole whose job it was to write Bob Saget's VO.
Yeah, Saget wasn't writing that shit.
Oh God. Oh, that makes my stomach hurt thinking about that.
I wonder what he made more money on, that or Full House.
Full House.
You think so?
but I think this was easier, right?
For sure. That's
This
true.
is just
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
boom, done. You didn't have to deal with the Olsen twins.
Everything's teleprompter.
Yeah.
You know,
And like what I like is it was
didn't
done
have
in
to
front of
deal with the Olsen twins.
I believe that so as an ABC series, I believe that you could go to like Disneyland or Disney World, and that's where they taped this show.
Okay.
Because I think that was part of like the allure of it. Is like I was like, well, we could go to Disney World and
Right.
also see America's Funniest Home.
That makes
Videos,
sense that the ABC studios would have been there. yeah.
right? Oh God, I would love that.
So what? Okay, this is a great question then. If you could travel back in time to one sitcom and go to a taping, and you can even pick the episode if you want, the taping that you would go back to, what would
Of
you go back
any
to?
sitcom of any time?
Any sitcom of any time, you could only go to one. So it's a there and back again ticket, and you're just going to go watch the taping of an episode. If you want to pick the episode, you can, but if you'd rather, it's up to you. What do you think you would do?
I think that I would go back to watch the episode of I Love Lucy where she's grape stomping.
Ooh, okay.
And I'll tell you why. I think that is the most referenced piece of television in history. I think it's incorporated into more other media, and I think it would be neat to be able to say, like, I was there, I saw this. I was present. Now, I'm going to guess for you, it's season 3, episode 6 of Night Court.
No.
No?
It would probably be any episode of Bewitched,
Yeah.
more than likely, just because Samantha all day, Samantha.
I'd want to do one where they brought in Uncle Arthur. Oh, Sam.
Right. And I mean, some sitcoms have an audience, some don't. But that idea of, I think we kind of understand like the guardrails around it, right? So you could include Dinosaurs from ABC,
Yeah.
because that was a sitcom, even though it had no audience. Whereas Coach had an audience. They even said it to you. This was filmed in front of a live audience every single time. Seinfeld had an audience. Yeah, that'd be fun. But I mean, there are so many I would love to go back to. But if I had to pick one, I'm probably going to go just any episode of Bewitched.
Have you ever been at a taping?
No.
I've been at 2, and then recently I was on the set of the reboot of Night Court,
Okay.
which
What were the tapings?
one was an episode of Gilmore Girls, and they didn't have like a live studio audience, but they let you like when you were on the Warner Brothers tour, like stand and like watch it.
Okay.
And then the other one was a show that never made it off the ground. It must have been during pilot season, but it was a David Spade show where he was an uncle caring for his kids. And I think they pretty much turned that into his seasons of, what was the name of that show where John Ritter died? Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Because David Spade ends up getting on that show. So essentially,
Yeah.
they took the plot of this pilot that I saw, and it's so efficient. Like
about
watching
that show.
television, you would have a great career because I've seen you on sets. Like you'd have a great career directing television because everything moves so fast, and like while you're doing this, you're setting up for this. The rehearsals are slow, really. And you also have to know like where the joke is, right?
Yep.
And you have to know you've
Right.
got coverage for the joke.
Right. Do you ever watch Grace Under Fire?
Yeah, I loved Grace Under.
Love Grace
Actually,
Under Fire.
An interesting fact about Grace Under Fire. So if you never saw this, Grace Under Fire was one of the million sitcoms that was, hey, you're a stand-up comedian and you've got some clout. We're gonna make a sitcom for you. Everyone got one of those. in the 90s.
But it's also one that probably wouldn't have happened had Roseanne not come first. Like
Right,
I think
and
Roseanne
if-
kind of kicked open a style.
Yep,
That really got embraced.
Now, I will actually argue that Roseanne can walk because the sitcom Maude
Oh yeah,
crawled.
Absolutely.
I think Norman Lear and Maude like really worked out this thing where like you can have a female who's the head of this and deal with real issues. Like there's an episode of Maude where she has to get an abortion. She terminates a pregnancy because she's too old to like be pregnant at the time. And people were like, Norman Lear, you can't do this. You'll never produce another show again. And then that dude lives to be 102 years old and is still like the most revered man in television of all time. But you're right. Actually, I think Roseanne opened the door for a lot. Actually, not just that female-led sitcom series, but the lower
The blue collar.
middle class. Yeah,
like the blue collar family.
Right, that level, they're not going on fantastic vacations. Now, the irony is that by the time that show ends, they have won the lottery. And
That's right.
like the last 2 seasons are them being ultra rich, but still living in their same house.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
Dan dies, has a heart attack and dies. Didn't like
Until
that. Until it turns out, well, no, okay, that's not true. So Dan has a heart attack and then he's okay, but then you find out in the final episode that he had died, and like the last couple seasons was Roseanne like writing a book about her life.
But then they brought back Roseanne, but then she got canceled, and they
Yes.
turned it into the Connors.
Yep.
And so
Which just had its final episode.
which just had its final episode, and they kill off Roseanne there. So
Yep.
they had to do something to retcon some of the old series to bring that show back, because it was a continuation of it.
Yeah.
And Dan was back. So I don't remember what they came up with to get themselves out of that little corner.
I think that they essentially said, oh, that book that you wrote where I think that in the first episode, there's a thing where it's like, I only was able to watch one episode of the new version of Roseanne. And people have told me like, hey, listen, you should watch The Connors, because I like Laurie Metcalf. I
Yeah.
like John Goodman.
Yeah.
But I do not care for Roseanne Barr. And so
She's not in the Connors.
I know, but like to get to The Connors, you have to watch that one season of Roseanne.
Yeah.
Where, anyway, Grace Under Fire, great show. It features a bunch of great side characters, one of them being played by Dave Thomas, not to be confused with Wendy's Dave Thomas. This Dave Thomas was with Rick Moranis, and he was half of I can't think of the name of the brothers.
They're the Canadian brothers.
yeah.
What are they called? I'm blanking on it too.
Yeah, the Strange Brew guys,
There
right?
you go, yeah.
Glue, 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 glue. Dave Thomas right now is in Ukraine, and he's filming a documentary about people having to live their lives and like go about their everyday lives while air raid sirens are constantly going on. I recently found this out talking with a journalist who was in Ukraine, and they said, you know how we get like silver alerts, like this old man is missing, will you help us find him? So if you live in that area, or if your cell phone's in that area, you get these notes. And she was showing me screenshots, and she's like, it's constant, because they don't know where the drone or the missile's gonna land.
Yep.
So anyone who's within, like 10 square kilometers
Yep.
gets this thing.
Yeah.
And so all night, and most of the time it doesn't happen during the day. These attacks are at night. And so she goes like all night long, it's and so Dave Thomas had at one point invested in a Ukrainian animation company. And it was very successful.
Wow.
And during the war, it's fallen down. And so his business partner, who ran the day-to-day in Ukraine, in Kyiv, said, like, you should come over here and look at this. And also, like, maybe help us get some... Because he started a new nonprofit that essentially is like, we're buying bandages and we're getting materials that the Ukrainian army needs to survive. So Dave Thomas is over there filming a documentary right now. And I was watching an interview he was doing, and this is like in the last 2 days. I was watching an interview right before he went over, and they said, well, are you afraid? And he's like, well, yeah, of course, I'm going to a war-torn area, and anything can happen. But then he had like a great line. He's like, but I've led an awesome life. And so this kind of idea that like, even if he happens to die, he's like, yep, I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to do this thing. And then it made me think, how many people have Ukrainian animation companies?
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of. Like,
Right?
Like, I have a Ukrainian animation company.
Do you remember the joke in Super Troopers? Afghanistan
animation.
That one doesn't get old to me. I think that one
That's a
still
great
hits
one.
pretty hard.
Yeah, Super Trooper stands up to this day still.
I remember being in my buddy Jared's basement, and he had just had a party, even though his parents were still upstairs sleeping, and everyone else is passing out. But because I didn't drink, I wasn't passed out, and so he puts on Super Troopers, and I'm watching it, and I don't know how to turn down the volume on his surround sound, and so it's super loud. Like, it's super loud. And at one point, his mom came downstairs, and she's like, oh, watching a movie, huh? And, like, seeing all these people just, like, littered everywhere. And I was like, uh-huh. And it's, like, 4 o'clock in the morning. She's like, I think that you guys should turn it down. And I'm like, I actually don't know how to turn it on. She goes, well, then turn it off. I was like, you got it. And so I turned it off, and then I was like, I don't want to be here. This is awkward. And so I went upstairs to leave, but both of his parents were up drinking coffee. So I talked to his parents for like 20 minutes, but I was like, listen, I got to go.
You were that kid.
I totally was that kid. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. Canadians' funniest home videos did not last as long. Womp, womp, womp.